schizophrenia is one of the top 10 illnesses in the world. And the psychiatry and the pharmaceutical establishment, and indeed the medical establishment, have recently drummed up another cause for it. And they've done that for year after year after year, for decade after decade. It's the mothers, it's genetics, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. They've come up with some reason, and all those reasons have failed. Their most current one, which was dreamed up by a pharmaceutical industry, is that the brains of those who are mentally ill have some kind of chemical imbalance that causes that mental illness. This has been, not only they have not been able to prove it, it has been disproven over and over and over again, yet they're still teaching this in the medical schools. The drug industry wants that to go out, and it's a lie, it's a fabrication, but it helps sell drugs. All right. So what's happening here is the establishment, the psychiatric, the pharmaceutical establishment, the medical establishment have, in the United States, reduced the funding for research into schizophrenia down to dregs, just virtually nothing compared to the other illnesses. They did this by manipulating the numbers. So they went from like over 2 million schizophrenics in the United States, and National Institute of Mental Health manipulated the numbers, took all these people and discounted them, the people on the streets, the people in tons of schizophrenics in other places, and they just included the small body and say, well, listen, it's only a few thousand, it's not 2 million. So we're reducing the research. So they have no interest in finding a cure. And what they have now are these antipsychotic drugs that are horrible. They rot out the patient's peripheral nervous system with long-term use. They do physiological damage. They kill brain cells. They're awful. Their side effects are really nasty, but they bring into control the symptoms. So they lessen the symptoms of psychosis, of schizophrenia, but they cure absolutely nothing. So the first thing I want to make clear is that the chemical imbalance theory put out by the establishment is a lie. It's just a bold-faced lie. There is no chemical imbalance. They don't even know what the balance of the brain should be, the chemical balance of the brain should be. They have no idea. They just made this up in the pharmaceutical industry because it sells drugs. Okay, the second thing they've dreamt up, and they fostered on the public, which is, in their opinion, it's reasonable, but they haven't done one iota of research into it at all. And that is the notion that the voices that schizophrenics hear are hallucinations, unreal hallucinations. They're not real. Problem is, they haven't done any research into it because they consider them hallucinations. So who would investigate a hallucination? So they don't want to hear anything from the schizophrenics themselves. Schizophrenics have been trying to tell them for decades, hundreds of years, that these voices are real. They're not hallucinations. They're real. They won't listen. They'll say they're hallucinations. We're going to give you these drugs. It's a life sentence. You have schizophrenia, you got to take these toxic drugs for the rest of your life. There is no other cure. And the one professor who actually watched a shaman cure a schizophrenic, and several of them over and over again in Turkey, Dr. Irmak, published a journal article on this. And as soon as it hit the press, the establishment attacked him all up one side and down the other. The academics, the medical staff, the psychiatrists, you're trying to bring us down to the Stone Age. They just blasted him. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to even look into it. And they have no proof otherwise. They've done not one iota of research on the voices. So they have no say. I've done a lot of research on the voices, and they run very specific patterns.